Then, of course, it's Tottenham, obviously, on Saturday. Always, as you were saying, Steve, earlier, a difficult one to predict because with Spurs, you never really know what sort of side's going to turn up.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're weird. When they can be bothered, they're brilliant. But I mean, that club seems to be kind of the crisis club at the moment, despite the fact that they're. I think the last time I looked, they're still fourth, aren't they? So yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Don't know what you're worried about, lads, kind of things. And yet, from the outside, it's very, very obvious that that's a football club that is a bit of a mess behind the scenes. The manager clearly doesn't want to be there anymore. He's out of contract in the summer, and it's a combination of he's either just going to wind down his contract till the summer, or he's going to come out with the frankly bizarre stuff that he came out about Richarlison in his pre-match press conference on Thursday, I think it was, where he basically said that Richarlison wasn't slagging off the Spurs season, he was slagging off his own one, and he's right to, because he's been rubbish. Which I found was a bold man management technique. But I think Conte's just decided, I don't give a toss anymore. If Daniel Levy wants to pay up his contract now and he'll go 2 months early, I think he'd be absolutely delighted to do so. So yeah, I mean, they came up against Forest yesterday, and I mean we've seen countless times this season, obviously apart from the game at St Mary's, that their defence away from home just can't hack it. They concede goals in clumps. And Spurs winning that game wasn't a particular surprise. They won it quite comfortably. Kane scores loads of goals against us. Son scores loads of goals against us. Richarlison scores loads of goals against us. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But if we can kind of isolate the three of them, if they all play together, then I mean the rest of their team is. I mean, they've spent a lot of money on it, and yet it all just feels a little bit beige. Obviously, Fraser Forster will be playing because
back at St Mary's,
yeah, Lloris is injured for the foreseeable. But yeah, I mean, they just feel as if they're kind of going through the motions a little bit, which is odd given that they're still in the top four and still in with the shout of getting back in the Champions League next season. I mean, to be honest, I prefer them to be in there than Newcastle squeezing. Yeah, sod that. But obviously not at the expense of us beating them on Saturday.
You kind of know how they're going to set up and play, though, Glenn, because I know he's like one of the best managers or most well-paid managers in the league, but he doesn't really have a plan B, does he? It's all about the fullbacks getting forward and getting the balls into the boxes.
Yeah, and I always get the impression he doesn't really get the most out of the embarrassment of riches he's got at the top end of the pitch. We haven't mentioned Kulusevski yet, who's an excellent player. I don't know if he's fit at the moment. I know he was struggling a little bit with injury, but I went on a Spurs podcast, first game of the season, and obviously went to the new whatever it's called stadium, big shiny silver thing for that game as well, and they were excellent, and they looked like the sort of team that day. Even though we were bad, they looked like the sort of team that day that would seriously challenge, if not to win the league. You sort of really thought they'll be better than they normally are, and they just haven't been. As Steve has said, it's just like there's always something with Spurs, and it wouldn't matter what players they had, there would always be something. You know, the old Spursy thing.
Very Spursy, yeah.
Very Spursy. There's always something, and it must be hilarious for them that Arsenal are probably going to win the league this year. Which is funny. They should have had a much better season than what they've had, and you know, I think Conte has got the resources there, and he doesn't really have any excuses. You know, I think he's been involved with signing a lot of these players, and as Steve said, they're a kind of a beige team. They signed Bissouma, who I assumed was going to play in the centre of midfield. He's hardly played, and they're still. You know, Højbjerg's done well for them, and they're bringing in sort of like Oliver Skip and people like that who are okay without being, you know, the sort of players you'd expect to play if you're pushing for the Champions League places. Defensively, they've got got Romero, who obviously won the World Cup with Argentina, but he seems to be occupied with his own hard man image most of the time. So he's a walking yellow / red card every game. The fullbacks, Emerson Royal, not fantastic, and Perisic is more of a winger. So I do feel there is opportunity to get at them, but equally we could get absolutely ripped apart by the players they've got up front if we don't deal with basically Kane dropping off of our centre backs and into midfield to get their play moving. If we don't deal with that, then we're going to struggle and we will get beat. But if we deal with their front three, then I think there's a chance in the game for us.
I do think it all hinges on how Wednesday night goes for us, to be fair, and who starts. I think 3 games in a week is quite a big ask, and we've proved that we don't really have the squad depth. I'm going to come to you for some score predictions. Phil, would you like to go first on this as the guest prediction for the Spurs game?
Yeah, I've taken a bit of stick in the chat, I've noticed as well, for being too negative. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win.
2-1 win.
2-1 win. We'll win 2-1.
There's nothing wrong with negativity on here. You're amongst friends. It's all right. Steve?
High scoring one, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they've got enough quality up top to breach us, but then they've also got the ability to be an absolute clown car at the back. So
free kicks on the edge of the area, that sort of thing, you think? 2-2, you say?
Yeah.
And Glenn?
I'm going to go for a mad one, and I'll go for a 3-2 win. Yeah, I think there'll be goals in it. I'm hoping that Fraser Forster doesn't have one of his madness games where he absolutely stops everything. But yeah, I feel there will be chances for us, and I just hope they turn up, not giving a rat's too much about, or they just want to get Conte out the door as soon as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen between now and Saturday afternoon.